All right, let's dive into this explainer. We constantly hear about the massive global push for renewable energy. But today, we're unpacking a really surprising reality. We're looking at a totally unexpected bottleneck in the utility-scale battery energy storage system sector, BESS for short. Because, as it turns out, the one thing holding back the modern energy transition isn't actually what anyone thought it would be.
Let's start with part one, the real energy bottleneck, and a fascinating paradox in renewable energy.
So here's the paradox we're dealing with. On one hand, capital is literally everywhere. The money's just sitting there, right? And policy frameworks are shifting into place all around the world, greenlighting these massive green initiatives. Yet, across the entire industry, these huge multi-megawatt projects are hitting completely unexpected delays. They're just grinding to a halt. It's honestly like buying a fleet of brand new sports cars, only to realize absolutely no one has the keys to start them.
Which naturally begs the question, if the primary bottleneck for scaling our energy storage infrastructure isn't about, finding the money or securing government permits, what is actually causing these fully funded projects to stall out right when the grid needs them the absolute most? Well, it all comes down to human capital. Seriously, it turns out a severe shortage of highly specialized talent is the real culprit here. Human expertise, not financial capital, has unexpectedly become the absolute rarest resource in the utility-scale BESS sector. The money is waiting patiently in bank accounts, for sure, but the actual people who know how to build, test, and connect these highly complex systems, they're practically non-existent right now.
Moving on to Section 2, the missing specialists. Let's look at the critical roles that are running dry.
The talent pool is just running completely dry for three incredibly niche but absolutely vital roles. We're talking about high-voltage commissioning engineers, protection relay specialists, and safety compliance experts. And look, we aren't talking about generalists here. If you're missing even one of these specific experts on a project site, your entire commissioning schedule is, well, it's severely compromised. Now, to understand why these roles are so utterly irreplaceable, we just have to look at the sheer complexity of multi-megawatt integration. Think about what this actually means. Safely commissioning, synchronizing, and troubleshooting a complex grid node under incredibly strict regulatory frameworks. It is exceptionally high stakes. If a protection relay isn't configured perfectly, or actually, scratch that, if the high voltage synchronization is off by even a tiny fraction, the consequences for the electrical grid and for human safety are just massive.
This brings us to Section 3, Theory versus Reality, Paper Design versus Actual Grid Integration.
Because, you see, there is a massive gap between the drawing board and the physical site. Sure, designing a containerized BESS on paper or on a computer screen is a relatively straightforward theory. But stepping out into the field, safely commissioning, synchronizing, and troubleshooting that complex grid node under those strict safety frameworks, that kind of high-stakes environment demands years of hands-on, muddy boots experience. It's the kind of knowledge you simply cannot fast-track with a textbook.
So, when these two macro forces crash into each other, the impact is undeniable. On one side of the table, market scaling is pushing investment portfolios and demand absolutely through the roof across both European and North American markets right now. But then, you look at the workforce reality. We're talking about a mere handful of genuinely qualified engineers who are being stretched incredibly thin. And this structural constraint, it's directly leading to delayed schedules and skyrocketing project risks.
Okay, moving to Section 4, Bridging the Talent Gap and the Strategic Imperatives to get us there. To survive this bottleneck, organizations absolutely have to adopt these three strategic imperatives. First, bridge that gap by figuring out innovative ways to source or develop those specific engineering skills. Second, and this is perhaps the most crucial one for you, you have to retain your existing technical expertise. You literally cannot afford to lose a protection expert to a competitor right now. And finally, leverage those experts seamlessly to accelerate your deployment times and finally push those fully funded multi-megawatt projects right across the finish line.
Which brings us to a quote that really just hits the nail on the head. When projects stall, it is rarely due to a lack of ambition or capital. We clearly have the global ambition to transition our energy grids, right? And we certainly have the money. But it's specialized human expertise that is the true, irreplaceable engine of the whole energy transition.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on. How is your organization navigating this talent gap?
Are your teams and your hiring managers truly equipped to solve the real structural bottlenecks in your deployment pipeline? Because right now, the race isn't about who has the most funding anymore. It's entirely about who can secure the specialized talent to safely plug those massive batteries into the grid,